sky is falling.
I like
the sky
that.
is
I like
falling. The sky is falling, everybody.
What?
We've lost Bill Callahan. We might as well go home.
Well, don't minimize it.
2 days ago, I was told the defensive line coach puts out tackling dummies, and now the offensive line coach is the end of the world. So how is that possible?
Well, we've seen what magic he's worked here.
Have we?
Yes! My God, if you haven't seen it, you're blind.
How good was the offensive line blocking for the running game this year?
Who was there? They were
You and me were the tackles. Yeah, they
Well,
did.
you know better than that.
You know,
I
that
know.
is-
I know it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things.
Wow. There's only one assistant coordinator that would give me pause, and it's him.
It's disappointing.
I mean,
but
one
it's
on the
not end
Brown
of world.
staff. You know, Jim Schwartz, obviously. we
Of
just
course
got
it
him, but-
matters. It's just not the end of the world. Let's not make a bigger deal than
I
it
think
is.
it's the second most important coach on the staff.
I agree
right
with
now.
that. I think DC is first,
Yeah.
and then offensive line.
Yeah.
I'll throw it out there. Joe Thomas.
He's in Germany
Why?
coaching.
Learning how to be a coach.
Yeah.
He told us on the show when we asked him point blank, oh, that's definitely in my future, but when my kids are older. But I know how this works. When you're sitting at home, you run out of things to do.
Usually when I hear people say they want to spend more time with their kids, they're doing something else within a year.
I don't know.
Oftentimes, yes.
I stayed home with my kids. I want to go spend time with my kids. That's exactly what I'm doing.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
We're going to talk all about that coming up
But
in
wait,
just a
somebody's
little
got to
bit.
explain to me why the defensive line coach is irrelevant and the offensive line coach is that important.
Can we do that after a read?
He has explained it to us.
I played both,
Let Mike
and I'll
read
tell
it.
you why.
Yeah, we'll do that after a read here. And we have only 3 reads today, which is good for you guys. You don't have to hear my voice that often. But FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, guys. It never changes, and Super Bowl season is here, and FanDuel is going to help you become a winner over the next few days. If you're like the UCSS squad, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seats on the couch, grabbing your favorite snacks, and placing some super bets. Next week, I'm going to have all my favorite prop bets for you guys, so if you want to join us on FanDuel with those prop bets, we'll let you know what we're betting on. FanDuel has so many different ways to help you end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on which team will win the Super Bowl this season, you can also bet on which players will score touchdowns, how many points will be scored, and so much more. Today, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if their first bet of $5 or more wins. So just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS. UCSS, make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the NFL. And thanks to our new organizing system, I'm able to get all these tickets that win out there without question. Aaron at the Shield NA turned $10 into $1,714 yesterday with a frankly absurd same-game parlay. Only 4 legs. Wow. Kelly Oubre, 3 made threes. Jordan Clarkson, 8 assists. Paul Reed, 10 or more rebounds. And Lauri Markkanen over 9.5. All 4 hit, $10 into $1,700.
Why is that such a long odds?
Because Jordan Clarkson doesn't pass, Kelly
pass.
Oubre doesn't shoot, and Paul Reed doesn't play.
Yeah,
What kind of inside info did he have? I mean, even look, those are still. It's a 4-leg parlay.
Right, but if all the odds are long on all 4 legs, then
I guess.
it's going to pay out.
I don't know. Has Clarkson had 8 assists all year?
I'll look
It's
into
probably
that one sec.
close.
He must know him.
Hey, listen, man.
Listen, this is what I need from
I'm
you guys.
joking, but not really.
Hey, when I'm gonna come in here, I'm telling y'all, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm gonna come in here and they're gonna be like, wow, G. Bush had a 22-leg parlay and it hit for thousands.
And we'll never see him again.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of here. You know, I'm gonna let's go workman's comp.
You better win a lot more than 1,000 if you want to be
Yeah,
out
I
here.
mean that'll get you by for a day or two.
Listen, don't get it twisted. My wife is an Asian woman and an accountant. She is not having that. She checks. You better be at work, dog. I don't care what you hit in the lottery. Long term.
Mike, we're also going to do our Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show Super Bowl
Parlay next
5-leg
week.
parlay
Yep.
beginning Monday.
Yep.
We're going to look at all the different prop bets. I think there's more prop bets for the Super Bowl than any other event on the planet. We're going to pick the ones that we agree, 5 that we agree on, and we'll debate them on Monday. And then we'll put one in the column. And so this is going to be probably the most well thought out, well discussed, well debated 5-leg parlay in the history of parlays. Because I don't know how often we all 4 agree on anything.
Never.
And we're not putting it in
Rarely.
there if we don't
Yeah,
agree.
Right.
Well, next week it'll be 3. It'll only be three of us every day.
Okay, but still, I mean, let's see what we can do.
Color of the Gatorade.
I'm going to put money on it, and I don't bet.
Well,
So hopefully our viewers will
How come they don't have no?
FanDuel it too.
How come they don't have no dark Gatorade colors?
that's a
don't
good
know.
point, G. But hey,
Good point.
G,
I'm
we'll
not
talk about
drinking
that
a
next
brown
week.
Gatorade, okay?
We'll talk about that
Just
next
saying.
week.
That's
All
a
right.
little gross if you think about it.
They can have purple.
Where we are
Oh,
starting.
they do have
today, G.
purple, and I kill it.
Yeah, purple.
They have purple Gatorade.
I'm
Absolutely.
ready to go.
G, where we're starting today, though, is the loss of Bill Callahan for the Browns. Earlier this week, you said their defensive line coach hire, Jacques Césaire, if I believe I pronounced that right. You didn't really make a big deal out of the hiring because you alluded to your time playing Division I college football, saying defensive line coaches just set up dummies, and it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Why does this position loss or position coach loss hurt more than others, and what does this do as opposed to other positions that you said the position coach just frankly doesn't make that much of a difference?
Because it's night and day between how difficult it is to play O-line versus D-line. O-linemen have to be more cerebral. O-linemen are smarter. O-linemen have more synergy. O-linemen have to have gel, and they have to like each other and know what each other is doing. Plus, being an offensive lineman is like trying to disarm somebody with a weapon, and you don't have nothing but your skill set, your hands. So, that's the way offensive linemen are. So a lot of what they're doing is technique, it's hand placement, it's pad level, it's your kick slide off 2 centimeters here. Why did you get beat? Because your shoulders were turned this way. You let the inside move come. So it's all about dancing and technique. Plus, you have to also be able to be powerful and have leverage and know where the blitz is coming from and know how to pick blitzes up and do film work that says, okay, they're going to do this, that, and the third. So it's much more difficult to be an offensive lineman at the highest level than a defensive lineman. Defensive lineman is all about 3 things. It's about the get off. It's about your get off, your pad level, and your relentlessness, running to the football. You could teach somebody to stay low, right? You can draft somebody and they could have great get off and they could be a good athlete. They don't have to understand anything. All you do is get off the ball one-on-one. Can you beat them around the hoops? Do you have a counter move or something like that? It's just different levels of it. If you have a defensive lineman and you watch your film, the first thing they're going to say is, all right, what are you doing at the line of scrimmage, and do you have the first meaningful contact in this play? Other than that, it's just weird what it is. You don't got to tell Myles Garrett nothing. Just all right.
The quarterback.
Michael Parsons, you don't got to tell him nothing. He's mastered that. But when you get a right tackle,
Did Joe Thomas need so much coaching?
yes,
I mean, really? You really think Joe Thomas needed that much coaching?
yes.
That's a little insulting to your fellow defensive linemen. They're a bunch of dopes.
When you talk about DBs, what's the difference between a DB and a receiver?
Receiver's got better hands.
There it is. Now you're a DB then.
Well, and the other thing too is one is actionary and one is reactionary. And I like your point about the gelling together. It's much more of an orchestra on the offensive line.
Yep.
Not to say defensive lines don't work in tandem, because they do often in twos. But the offensive line is a unit, and they have to be on the collective same play sheet. And I think there's more of a, I don't want to let the guy next to me down. It's really foxhole stuff down there. And I think the other thing too, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just think that Bill Callahan is widely regarded around the league as not just the best offensive line coach, but I've had people tell me, no, he's the best position coach. So whenever you're losing the best at anything, it's going to hurt, in my view.
I don't know. He's an excellent coach. He's done a very good job. I just think losing a position coach is a minor blip. It's maybe more of a blip than a guy who's not as good a coach, obviously. But I mean, there was a member of the media who in Cleveland who insanely said this is like losing a playoff game. That's what the equivalent is. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's not like losing a playoff game. And
we're going to find out.
I'll tell you, you may dismiss this, but
Yeah.
this could cost them with free agents, because one of the reasons Ethan Posick came here, he had options. Mm-hmm. The reason he came here was Bill Callahan.
That's fascinating.
He told me it was the strength and conditioning staff. He really liked the Browns' strength and conditioning staff, and to be coached by Bill Callahan.
Wow.
And look what he's done, and Posick's turned his career around.
He
now
was
he's
just
been
a
healthy.
guy when he came
He's
here.
just a guy. Now he had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
But he's had some injuries here, but he stayed relatively healthy, and this is what's happened. The job he did with DeJuan Jones this year was remarkable. We talked about it before the draft. Gee, you were all over him. I said the talent is there. It's the maturity issue. Is he mature enough to? He had some growing up to do. Well, guess what? DeJuan Jones grew up this year.
Big time.
And,
Fast.
he was throwing up on the field.
Yeah.
On his
I don't
first
know
day in a
that
Browns
we
uniform.
I mean, I'm not arguing with you that he's not an excellent coach. I just think I don't think we want to overstate. This is not devastating to the franchise. I just think that's way overblowing it.
It's not
you think
like
it's devastating to the franchise.
I think it's a big blow.
I do too.
Yeah.
I'm with Jay.
I mean, degrees to this, if you want to call it. I mean, losing a player is more devastating than losing a coach. But I think this is
depending
significant.
on the player.
Right. But again, you can look at Jed Wills and say he hasn't reached his potential, and that's fair. But I think that's more probably on Jed than on the coaching. And I still maintain.
So the guys that don't do well, we blame the player. The guys who do, we give the credit to the coach.
You don't think players are accountable?
They do, but you can't just blindly give all the credit to the coach
You don't.
and not give him any of the blame when a first-round pick doesn't pan out.
I give a ton of credit to DeJuan Jones for growing up and doing what he needed to
Right.
do. But I also think Bill Callahan had a hand in that.
Sure, but then you got to give him at least some level of blame for Jed
I
Wills
just
not
said that.
developing.
Yeah, I just said that.
Well, here's the thing. One thing why what it hurts is there's an old infomercial. I forget what the infomercial was about, but the slogan was "Set it and forget it." You just set the timer and you come back and the meal's done. When you Kevin Stefanski, you had a luxury of setting and just let him do it. Forget it. Callahan got that.
So hire another good line coach. I mean, there's other good
So
coaches.
let me ask you this. If you're doing business, right? We all do business, and if you're in the business world, say for instance you lose your senior marketing manager. Mm-hmm. He had a bunch of connections in the industry. New people could uninformedly just walk in places, check the temperature of some things. Maybe they owed them some favors. The guy was really plugged in to a lot of things in the industry. If you lose that guy, and you say, well, just bring in another good sales manager. It don't work that way. What if that sales manager don't have the relationships? What if he don't have the sales
what choice
force?
do you have? You got to bring in somebody else.
bring in somebody.
I understand what Bull's
Well,
saying.
I get that.
You're going to bring someone in, but there are certainly levels to all of this.
Yeah.
Whenever, and I like your analogy, whenever an organization loses a critical piece, it becomes more important with how you replace that job. So obviously they're all important in their own ways. But we sat here and sang the praises of Bill Callahan week in and week out last year because what we kept saying was we've got two replacements on the bookends, and that's a recipe for disaster. And then on Monday we would sit here and say, wow, didn't even notice the left and right tackle.
Didn't hear the names.
We didn't
this
say
week.
that in the playoff game.
No, we didn't. But you can't. So Bill
Yeah.
Callahan, job
Yeah.
he did this year. A
Did an
through
excellent
F.
job. He
Well,
did an
give him a
excellent
grade.
job. He's an excellent coach.
No, I know, but what would you grade him as
I'd give him a B+.
Oh my!
And
I give him an A+, and I don't even think
but
twice about it.
I think he did a tremendous job. But I'm just saying, I just think in the grand scheme of things, no one position coach moves a team up or down that much.
We need Joe Thomas on this. That's what we need.
Unfortunately, I'm
I
not
know
sure
he's
if
in
Phoenix
Europe.
works internationally. I'm not sure we got the international.
Yeah,
minutes
I
in
don't know,
the,
but I mean, it's in the
UCSF budget,
afternoon.
but yeah.
It's afternoon for
I mean,
him.
the Browns had
I
good
would love to
offensive
hear from
lines
Joe
before-
Thomas. I don't
before-
think there's a better voice on this topic.
Yeah.
We can reach out. It'd probably be a no, but maybe he might say, hey, guys, I'm not doing anything. I'd love to come on.
I'll shoot
There's
him a
no
text.
debating that it's a loss for the Browns. It certainly is. They did the right thing. They let him go with his son.
It
That
is
was
By
the
the
right
way, what
thing.
happened
That's
to the
important.
report a couple of weeks ago that no, that wasn't going to happen?
It was wrong.
It was
From a reliable reporter that we all trust.
It's the right thing to do because when
Mm-hmm.
that first, and I'd kind of heard a little bit of the same, and when that first started coming out, I was really disappointed in that because this is the right thing to do. Let him go coach with this
It is.
kid. It's such a thrill for him, and you have to be known as an organization that does right by your
That's
people.
right.
You're right.
And this is a really good way to get a bad reputation is to try and fight this or block this. You get a pretty and Belichick used to do that. Belichick used to guilt trip his coaches about leaving and trying to block him and everything else.
Well, he refused to let them talk to the media.
But he was also winning Super Bowls and he could get away with a little bit more. But the Browns aren't in that position. You have to do right by the people that do right by you. And this was absolutely the right move. As much as it hurts, as much as it stings, you want to be known as an organization that has your people's back and does right by
I
your
agree with
people.
that.
Here's a great way of looking at it. The way it affects you is if you are an organization and you're drafting somebody and you got great people that can develop people, you have more room for error. I can draft a guy and say, I think he's a C guy, But I believe that he can get to a B because I got a great guy
Sure.
coaching him. Now you have less room for error now because you
That's
can
fair.
draft a guy and you say, well, I think that he's going to be a B guy. He can get to an A, but he never goes anywhere. He stays the same when he came in the organization. That's why training and development is
But
a
why
huge
can't
part
you
of that.
say that about the other coaching positions?
Because
I just think that's a little unfair.
well, here's the thing. Certain coaches are higher on the pecking order.
Of course.
Is it more difficult to teach a quarterback or DB? A quarterback.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's easier to teach
Well, but
a defensive lineman over a offensive
I
lineman.
hear you, but let me ask you this: if you had to say right now today, how many wins the Browns are going to get next year? I know it's impossible to answer, but just answer anyway. How many wins the Browns next year? What do you got right now?
They got double digits. They got better be 11, 12.
Okay, are you changing that number because Bill Callahan's gone?
It's hard. It's hard.
I might.
I would
it's,
go
it's-
this way.
It's hard to say in the totality
You
of things.
do you think Bill Callahan is worth wins and losses?
I think he's
I
probably
do.
worth a win this year with all the injuries they had
I
on
agree.
that line. I think he was worth a win.
And
This year-
and
I
oftentimes,
And it's impossible to know what the injury
Yeah, I don't
situation is
buy
going to
that,
look like
but,
next year.
but all right.
well, then you just completely dismiss the entire coaching profession
Just
if you don't
they-
say
no.
that they
they
have
had so
any
many-
I'm
impact on the
dismissing it.
win-loss
You guys have
record.
been shitting on the defensive line coach for 2 days, and I'm dissing this position.
They were so ravaged by injuries.
Yes.
They were bringing in guys off the street. Who had ever heard of Jaron Christian before he got here?
Nobody.
Nobody wanted him.
He played in the league. It's not like
He was
not
on a
played in the league.
he was on a practice squad. Nobody wanted him.
I hear you, but the Browns are not the only team to pick up an offensive lineman off the practice squad and have him play.
Haven't played
It's
that
not like
well.
it's so unique.
Haven't played that
Did
well.
he play
and-
that
and-
well?
and-
I don't know that he played that well.
I don't think he
mean,
graded out as a Pro Bowl player, but
Yeah.
he didn't get the quarterback.
Jace, I'll
killed.
ask you a question. I don't know if you know the answer to this offhand. How many games did the Browns play with their starting 5 from when they broke camp?
Zero. Conklin got hurt in the opener.
There you
So
go.
they played half
But their
a game.
offensive.
Half a
What?
game.
What do you say that as if that proved something? It
What,
didn't prove it.
here's what it proves. It
Their offensive
proves
line didn't
that
play
their
great.
offensive line
Yeah.
was a hodgepodge. It was mixing and matching too is the other thing because, like you said, you always hear about, well, the Bengals are playing their 17th game this year and they've had one starting line combination. I'm using them as an example. It happens. And what do the coaches, what do analysts say about that? Well, the cohesion that they've had, they all know each other's tendencies. They're all working as a well-oiled unit. This one was like, okay, you're out, you're in, you're out, and you're out, and you're in.
There was a time
and
where
you're
Wyatt
in.
was the only starting lineman
Right, but
left
you
standing.
say that as if they played great. The offensive line did not play
But
great.
if they didn't have good coaching, they would have never won 12 games.
Well, there's no way to quantify that. If you had another offensive line coach who was the 8th best offensive line coach in the league, they might have been just as good. And even if they were a pinch worse,
I'll say-
in theory, that doesn't mean they would have lost the game.
I'll just give you the insight
Yeah.
of just being on the offensive line.
Yeah.
When you walk up there,
Yeah.
it's unwritten. If they run something or they run a twist or a text, one guy leaves, one guy drops back, one guy come. Every single person on that offensive line has to see and diagnose the same thing. Do you know how rare it is? Hold on.
Yeah.
Do you know how rare it is for 5 people to see one thing and then react in unison? It's almost impossible.
But was the Browns' offensive line? You guys keep giving me examples as if, see, it's vindicated because the Browns' offensive line is great. But the Browns' offensive line wasn't great this year. It was mediocre. Now, you want to say with a worse coach it would have been even worse than that? You're probably right. I just don't know. You're making it seem like this is the only offensive line coach in the whole league that makes a difference, and I think that's crazy.
I think he's universally considered to be the best.
By who?
Everybody.
Bull, ask
Everybody in the
around.
league.
Ask
Everybody in the league?
Yes. Well, I don't know about everybody in the league because I haven't talked to everybody in
I
the league,
hear
but I
you,
have
but
talked to a lot of people that say he's
Yeah,
universally.
even if he is the best offensive line
Then that's
coach
a
in the league,
loss.
then nobody's saying it's not a loss. I'm saying it's not the end of the world.
I don't
Nobody
know.
said,
I
well,
don't know
the
who
sun's
up
gonna
here
come up
saying it.
tomorrow.
I don't know
You
who
guys
up
said
here
it.
is-
It's
is
the
the
difference
world.
between wins and losses. I just don't buy
I
that.
think he was worth one win this year with all the injuries that they had. I do.
I guess that we'll never know.
I don't
but
think we'll get Joe, right? We're not going to get
We
Joe.
tried texting him. The messages haven't gone through.
Okay,
so.
that's a problem. I reached out to Lomas Brown. Lomas is a friend of the show. He's been on. I think Lomas, at least from the people that I've talked to on offensive lines, how they integrate, how they work together, he was so highly thought of that he was brought into Tampa at the end of his career knowing that he wasn't going to play.
Yeah.
They had a guy named Kenyatta Walker who really needed
Yeah.
a mentor. He came in, and he was essentially a second offensive line coach. Now, we did end up playing considerable amount, but that was because of injuries and whatnot. I would then worked with him for 6 or 7 years at ESPN, and whenever the network had an offensive line issue like this, they brought in Lomas, just because he's widely regarded as one of the best of our time.
Yeah.
He'll probably reply before the end of the show, and we'll see what he
If
says.
he is,
My
yeah, he
question
can
to him
hop on
was,
for sure.
we're having a discussion on Bill Callahan leaving. How big a loss is that?
Yeah.
How much difference can an O-line coach make?
The only thing I would end with that would be what I opened with is that when players are telling me the reason they came here was because of the coach, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
that